In August 2019, one of the most connected men on Earth died alone in a prison cell. His name was Jeffrey Epstein. Officially, it was ruled a suicide. But within hours, the story exploded across the world. Not just because of how he died, but because of who he knew. Presidents, princes, billionaires, intelligence figures, CEOs. And then came the real shock. Thousands of pages of court records, flight logs, contact books, and sealed testimonies, what many now call the Epstein Files. Some names were public, others were hidden. And when courts began unsealing those documents years later, it raised a disturbing question. How deep did Epstein's network really go? And why does the truth still feel incomplete? Because this story isn't just about one man. It's about power. It's about justice. And it's about whether the world's most powerful people live by the same rules as everyone else. Today, on the GeoPulse, we're going to explain exactly what the Epstein Files are, what they actually reveal, what they don't reveal, and why this case continues to shake global trust in institutions. Part 1. Who was Jeffrey Epstein? The rise of an unusual power broker. Jeffrey Epstein's story doesn't follow a normal path to wealth or influence. He was born in Brooklyn, New York in 1953. He never completed college. He had no famous family connections, no major public company. Yet somehow by the 1990s and 2000s, Epstein had become a multimillionaire financier with access to the highest levels of global power. He socialized with former U.S. President Bill Clinton. He was photographed with Donald Trump years before Trump entered politics. He was connected to Britain's Prince Andrew. He moved comfortably among hedge fund managers, tech founders, scientists, and political leaders. But here's what made Epstein unusual. Unlike most billionaires or financiers, Epstein's actual source of wealth was never fully transparent. He claimed to manage money for wealthy clients, but very few clients were publicly known. This mystery alone raised eyebrows long before his criminal charges ever surfaced. And then, in 2005, everything began to unravel. Police in Florida began investigating Epstein after allegations emerged that he had abused underage girls. By 2008, Epstein reached a controversial plea deal. He pleaded guilty to state-level charges of soliciting prostitution from a minor. He served just 13 months in jail, much of it under work release privileges that allowed him to leave jail during the day. This deal sparked outrage. Federal prosecutors had evidence for much more serious charges, but those charges were dropped as part of the agreement. Many critics argued Epstein received extraordinary leniency. Which raises our first question for you. Do you believe powerful people receive different treatment in the justice system, or should justice always be blind to wealth and status? Part 2. The 2019 arrest and the moment. Everything changed for years. Epstein stayed mostly out of the spotlight until July 2019. Federal prosecutors in New York arrested Epstein again, this time on serious federal sex trafficking charges involving minors. The evidence was significant. Investigators found large amounts of cash, thousands of photos, and extensive records linking Epstein to alleged abuse. This was no longer a minor state case. This was federal prosecution, with potentially decades in prison. But just weeks later, on August 10, 2019, Epstein was found dead in his jail cell. The official ruling was suicide. However, the circumstances immediately triggered global suspicion. 2 security cameras outside his cell malfunctioned. The guards assigned to monitor him failed to conduct required checks. And Epstein had previously been placed on suicide watch, but was removed shortly before his death. To many observers, this wasn't just shocking. It was destabilizing. Because Epstein was not just any prisoner. He was someone who potentially knew secrets involving extremely powerful individuals. His death meant he would never testify in court, never be cross-examined, never reveal everything he knew under oath. And that's when attention shifted to something else. The documents, the files, the records Epstein left behind. Part 3. What are the Epstein Files, really? When people talk about the Epstein Files, they're referring to several categories of real, verified documents. These include flight logs from Epstein's private jet, his personal contact book, sometimes called the Black Book, court depositions, and sworn testimonies, evidence and witness statements from criminal and civil cases, and thousands of pages of documents unsealed by courts in recent years. One of the most important legal cases connected to these files was a civil lawsuit filed by Virginia Giuffre against Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's longtime associate. Ghislaine Maxwell was later convicted in 2021 of helping Epstein recruit and abuse underage girls. She is currently serving a 20-year prison sentence. This conviction confirmed something critical. Epstein did not operate entirely alone. But here's where things get complicated, and where misinformation often spreads. Many individuals appear in Epstein's contact book or flight logs, but appearing in those records does not automatically mean criminal wrongdoing. Some were friends, some were business associates, some were acquaintances, some may have had no knowledge of Epstein's crimes at all. Courts have repeatedly emphasized this distinction. Being named in documents is not the same as being charged or convicted of a crime. This distinction is essential to understanding the truth. But it also raises another important question. Should the public have the right to see all names connected to Epstein, or does that risk falsely accusing innocent people? Part 4. Why were so many documents sealed? One of the biggest sources of public frustration is secrecy. Why were Epstein-related documents sealed for so long? There are 3 major reasons. First, victim protection. Many victims were minors when the abuse occurred. Courts often seal records to protect their identities and prevent further trauma. Second, due process. Courts must prevent unproven allegations from damaging reputations unfairly. Simply being accused is not proof of guilt. Third, ongoing investigations. Law enforcement sometimes keeps records sealed to protect active cases or confidential sources. However, over time, courts began unsealing more documents. In 2024, thousands of pages were released publicly after legal battles. This release did not reveal a single hidden master list of criminals. Instead, it revealed something more complex and more realistic, a web of relationships, some innocent, some questionable, some criminal, and many still unclear. Part 5. The Power Dimension. Why Epstein matters beyond crime. Epstein's case isn't just about criminal behavior, it's about power structures. Throughout history, wealthy and influential individuals have often operated in social circles invisible to the general public. Private jets, exclusive islands, closed-door meetings. Epstein owned a private island in the Caribbean. This island became one of the most controversial symbols of his case because it represented something deeper, a world where extreme wealth can create extreme privacy, and privacy can sometimes shield wrongdoing. This isn't unique to Epstein. Historically, power networks exist in every society. Political elites, corporate elites, financial elites. This doesn't automatically imply criminal behavior, but it does create environments where accountability becomes harder. This raises a deeper geopolitical reality. Trust in institutions depends on transparency. When people believe elites operate above the law, trust collapses, and when trust collapses, democracy weakens. We've seen this pattern globally, not just in the United States, from corruption scandals in Europe, to oligarch networks in Russia, to financial secrecy in offshore tax havens. The Epstein case became a symbol of this larger issue, not just crime, but inequality in accountability. Part 6. The Intelligence Speculation. Fact versus fiction. Another controversial topic is speculation that Epstein may have had connections to intelligence agencies. This theory exists, but there is no verified public evidence proving Epstein worked for any intelligence service. However, the speculation didn't emerge randomly. Historically, intelligence agencies have used social relationships, influence, and compromise as tools. During the Cold War, both Western and Soviet intelligence used what's known as compromat, compromising information to gain leverage. This historical reality fuels public suspicion, but it's important to separate speculation from evidence. So far, Epstein was charged and investigated as a criminal trafficker, not as an intelligence operative. Still, his mysterious wealth and unusual network continue to raise unanswered questions, and that uncertainty fuels ongoing debate. Let's ask you directly. Do you think the full truth about Epstein's network has already been revealed? Or do you believe there's still more the public doesn't know? Part 7. The real impact. Why this case changed public trust. The Epstein case had consequences far beyond the courtroom. It reshaped public trust. Because people saw 3 disturbing realities. First, Epstein received an unusually lenient plea deal in 2008. Second, he maintained elite connections even after being convicted. Third, he died before facing full federal trial. This created a perception gap. Whether justified or not, many people began questioning whether wealth and influence can shape outcomes in the justice system. This perception matters deeply, because institutions rely on legitimacy. If citizens believe justice is unequal, the foundation of law weakens. This is why Epstein became more than a criminal case. He became a symbol of hidden power, a symbol of unanswered questions, and a symbol of institutional trust under pressure. Part 8. What the Epstein Files do and do not prove. Let's clarify something critical. The Epstein Files confirm Epstein was a serial sexual abuser and trafficker. They confirm Ghislaine Maxwell helped him recruit victims. They confirm Epstein had access to powerful individuals. But they do not prove that every person who knew Epstein committed crimes. This distinction matters, because facts must remain separate from assumptions. Justice depends on evidence, not association. Some individuals connected to Epstein have faced legal consequences. Others have not been charged. Courts operate on proof, not public suspicion. This is the foundation of legal systems worldwide. But public curiosity remains intense, because Epstein's story touches a fundamental human fear. That power can hide truth. Conclusion. The bigger picture. Why? This story still matters. The Epstein Files are not just about one man. They're about systems, about power, about accountability, about whether transparency can truly exist in a world of extreme wealth and influence. The facts we know are disturbing enough. A wealthy financier exploited vulnerable minors. He avoided maximum punishment once. He died before facing full justice. And his network included some of the world's most powerful people. But the deeper story is about something even bigger. Trust. Trust in governments. Trust in institutions. Trust in justice. Because when trust weakens, societies become unstable. And when transparency increases, accountability strengthens. The Epstein case forced the world to confront uncomfortable realities, not just about crime, but about power itself. And perhaps the most important question isn't just what Epstein did. It's this. In a world shaped by wealth, influence, and secrecy, how can ordinary people be sure that truth and justice still prevail? That's the question that remains. And it's a question that will shape global trust for years to come. If you found this analysis valuable, consider subscribing to the GeoPulse, because understanding power isn't about outrage, it's about clarity, and clarity is the first step toward accountability.